Okay, let's talk about Fellowship. You know, I went into playing this game not only with an open mind, but like actively looking forward to it. I think the art style is great. I like the general premise here of this MMO-inspired dungeon farming simulator. And from the initial trailers, I thought it looked like it could be a lot of fun. So when I went into the playtest that launched last week, like I was ready to go, both hoping and wanting to really enjoy it. Unfortunately, after spending just a couple of days playing the game, I didn't. Like, I am legitimately disappointed to say I really have not had a good time playing Fellowship. But why though? Like, why am I not enjoying this game? And that's what I want to talk about here today. I will preface the rest of this video by first saying, like, I legitimately hope for the best for this game and its developer. And it does seem like there are people enjoying playing Fellowship. But like, as interested as I was in theory for this game, try as I might, I could just not muster the motivation to keep playing after just a few hours. Things were simply not clicking for me. Like, I couldn't find the fun. And I want to try to nail down some of the specifics as to why that might be, with the hope that maybe they could use this feedback to improve it, and then the next time I play, maybe I'll have a blast, who knows. But before we dive into the feedback for this game, let's take a look at it in action so you can get a good, clear picture of what Fellowship is like. All right, so this is referred to as a MODA. Sorry. Multiplayer online dungeon adventure. From what I've seen from like gameplay footage of this, it essentially just looks like World of Warcraft dungeons, which are WildStar dungeons. It's got the art style plus like the animations and effect telegraphs that just like line up perfectly with those two games in my mind. Solely focused. It's a game that is entirely focused on going into dungeons, and I'll be very curious how they present that to us, and like if it feels at all immersive, or if I'm just, I don't know. Like, well, I guess we'll see. I'm keenly interested though, for sure. Interact with a spawn point. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Man, they literally even have like, telling you, dude, it's like WoW and WildStar had a baby. Movement feels pretty fluid to start, at least. And I actually do quite enjoy the style. I'll fiddle with these later. Is there a dodge? No active dodge ability. I feel like I expect that in 2025, but again, they're modeling this after WoW. So right click and my first hit miss. That is the perfect encapsulation of auto attack tab target combat. Sylvie, a healer, has emerged from hiding to join my party. Healer's role is to prevent their party members from dying by healing their lost health. Also, am I not looting any of these bodies? Doesn't look like it. It might be because I'm ancient, but man, this text is really small. Can I fix that too? Text size, no text size option is there. Scheiße. You know what? I like it so far. I'm still in the tutorial, but I like it so far. All right, shield throw, boom. I'm a paladin, wonderful. I can't believe I'm not getting any loot off these guys. I mean, I know it's just this tutorial, but it feels wrong. What about, can I do this? I can. What happens? Wow, that's something. All right. To survive, you'll need to use your shields up ability. This ability immediately grants a lot of toughness. It has 2x charges, so it can be used twice before the long cooldown makes it unavailable. You have also gained the charge again. I gotta say, if I hadn't had experience with MMOs, getting all of these abilities and mechanics thrown at you within the first 15 minutes of playing, it's just a lot. But I guess that's just how this game is, because the whole thing is the dungeon running, and there is no period where you're leveling up in the open world, and you know what I mean? This is all analogous to plenty of other MMOs that I've played, so I am processing this. If you have not played MMOs before, I feel like this would be a lot to absorb in the first 15 minutes. What is this? Shockwave? Okay, I got a new ability that they didn't tell me about, unless I completely missed it. All right, sweet. Finish the tutorial. So we got 4 characters. We got the monk, Helena. We got DPS of Rhyme, and then Tariq, which is like a berserker. And it looks like they just have like easy and hard difficulty for each of these. Then Vigor and Sylvie for the healers. I mean, I'll be honest with you, kind of want to tank. I like tanking, and typically these games are not inundated with tanks. Tank is usually the least picked role. People just don't like the responsibility, having to know all the fights, but The game just came out. I'm assuming nobody knows anything. So if I screw up a tanking fight, I'll just blame it on someone else. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. What do you mean I messed up the mechanic? I don't know the mechanic. But it seems okay so far. Like, I got a few questions I need answered. I'm gonna have to rebind my keys. Because again, ban. How many abilities did they throw at me? It was almost 10, if not 10, in the first 15 minutes. Like, again, I'm all right? This is literally all WoW Warrior stuff that I've played over the course of 20 years. Dude, if you weren't an MMO person, this is gonna be one hell of an onboarding process. This is cool though. This is cool. I'm like tentatively like, yeah, I'm tentatively interested. Servers are struggling here a little bit. Launch day of any game that needs to connect to a server. RIP. Well, it took about a half an hour, but we're finally back. Let me just explore around, I guess. Take a look at everything. Hey, great art style. I like it. Looks appealing. What's this chest? Anything? Oh, my stash. Oh, that's kind of cool. There's an upgrade system. Here's all my gear slots. So what's over here? Oh, the mount system. Equip unlocked mounts at the Stable Master. Now this is from a playtest. I wonder if they're just gonna have given us any. First mount unlocks after your first adventure. Okay, so I will do a dungeon and then I will get a mount. I know we just got started, but already it's making me wish it was just an actual MMO. You know, you know what I mean? Cause yeah, it's got a nice kind of welcoming look to it. Like I'm gonna play this game, right? I want to check it out, but yeah, even just being able to walk around this one area, this stronghold area, which is where we hang out in between doing dungeon runs, it makes me want to be like, hey, open the gates. Let me go into the first zone. Let me go into Shellwind Forest, you know? You know what I mean? And it's actually like this player hub area is actually more elaborate than I expected. Like, yeah, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. It's like somebody build that bridge into the MMO that I want this to be. Hey, who knows? Maybe if this game does well and it takes off, maybe the development studio does have MMO ambitions. That obviously, though, that is a drastically, significantly, massively larger endeavor and requires much more funding than what likely the development cost of this game is going to be. But I have a problem, okay? I have a problem. It's called MMO fanaticism, addiction, whatever. You just present me with any game and I will spin you a MMO variation of it that I would love to see brought into reality. But that's just not how any of this stuff works, right? Either way, though, yeah, we'll see what this game is. Oh, what is this thing? Is this like leaderboard? Exactly, yeah. Here are all the best players. This game started 30 minutes ago. Look at this. We cleared the dungeon in 7 minutes. Here's some DPS target dummies, healing and damage dealing, actually. And this is a craftsman, artificer? Scrap, reforge, and transmute. Yeah, like, look how cozy this is. This is nice. I like it. Is there a map? Oh, there is. Take a look at that. Stillwater Lake, Oakson's Mill, bridge to the MMO that I want to play. Here's a gate to the MMO that I want to play. Open the gate! All right, now I can try matchmaking. I'm guessing I'm going to get new abilities as we progress. Let's just quick play it. And this is going to give us abilities as well. Immediate, like, gut reaction to some stuff. I definitely feel like the UI needs a little polishing. I don't really normally complain about this, but I don't love the text font that's being used here. Not just because it's super tiny for me and I couldn't find the scaling. And I just don't, I mean, it's the same in, I feel the same way in every MMO. I know it's part and parcel for the genre, but I don't love how the UI is typically handled. It just feels so not immersive. I know it's like optimized for ideal play, but I don't love these massive bars, you know what I mean? Maybe I can hide some of this stuff. Like, the UI just feels so out of place to the rest of the world, you know what I mean? But I understand that's part of what it is. Like, you need to see your cooldowns, you need to be able to quickly see your health. The healers need to be able to see their teammates' health. I just feel like there could be a more immersive way of doing it. This is not unusual for me, though. Like I said, it's very in line with a lot of MMOs, which this game is clearly modeled after. The whole game is MMO dungeons, you know? Looks like quick play isn't working. People are saying just team up. Oh, I got matched. Okay. Probably helps that I'm playing a tank too. If anyone's getting fast queues in these games, it's the tanks usually. All right, here we go. First dungeon run. Let's do it. As a default, face the targets away from the team. Yeah, like they even have the damage meters on the side. Kind of hilarious. I mean, dude, it really just feels like I'm tanking a WoW dungeon. If that was the goal, they've definitely delivered on that. No question. If I were to close my eyes and play this, you know, as soon as I knew the hotkeys enough, it'd feel like identical to just tanking a WoW dungeon. Sincerely. Got 2 groups. I guess I'll go left first. Can charge in combat as well, which is nice. I'm actually gonna zoom in a bit. I'm gonna make it a little more immersive. Do you guys want to go this way? Is this what we're doing? I literally don't know. Group back there. I haven't seen any patrols or anything yet. This is not even a dungeon yet, by the way. They did make a distinction between the adventures and the dungeons. Oh, there's a patrol right there. I'm actually gonna grab them. Looks like they're enraged or something. But really, my health bar is not moving. So, is that a boss? Executioner? I don't know. Kind of just want to get these guys, though. I mean, whatever. It's my first dungeon. I don't need to... Also, check me out on those DPS meters, mate. Not bad. Good animations. Like putting away the sword and everything. That looks nice. Pull these guys. I'm assuming line of sight's a thing in this game. It is in most of the MMOs like this. Some Berserk, but again, doesn't really seem to matter. My health bar is not moving yet. All right, our first boss. Let's see if call man. Okay, so he's gonna call some people. I don't see them. There they are. Try to group them up for any cleave damage. I don't know if the other players have that, but in case they do. Let's get a big storm coming. It's literally deadly boss mobs. I mean, look at this. It's like, which if you don't know, that's a add-on in WoW, which does the same thing. It shows you the cooldowns on big boss abilities. Dead Arc, so probably chains to other players. Dread Arc. There's the storm. Oh, you know what? I should have saved my shield throw. Yeah, he's gonna call more people in 6 seconds. I think it's happening right after this. Yep, there they are. Well, I mean, that's... Yeah, we did a dungeon. Get loot. I got boots. Some gold. Did anyone get anything like really good? All gray gear? No. You gotta give one person like a blue or a green so that the rest of us get envious and want to run again. Guarantee a green drop. If you're lucky, you get a blue drop. And so we're all like, oh man, look at that. That one has +2 strength. No, here's the big question. Do my boots have a visual representation of my character? All right, so this one gives me strength and stamina. But it didn't have prior, apparently. Oh yeah, let me see. Did it actually change? Yeah, it does. Look at that. Sweet. So that was my first 1.5 to 2 hours of playtime, but I didn't stop there. I continued playing for a total of nearly now 6 hours, a few for that first day, and then I took a break and the second day came about and I was like, you know what? I want to give it an honest shot, so I'm going to jump in and play again. I played for a few more hours, but honestly, that was a struggle. In fact, if I were being completely frank, I would say after my second or third adventure run, those like early mini dungeons, I was already pretty checked out. Like, I kept pushing myself to see a bit more, to try to give the game a fair shot, and to see if my thoughts would change as I pushed into the higher tier difficulties, as I got new abilities, as I got the talents, as I tried different dungeons. I was hoping sooner or later it's gonna click and I'm gonna be into this, right? But that just didn't happen. First off, let me give you the general lay of how the game works. As you just saw, you start off with a tutorial, you then pick a hero, you explore the town, after which you queue for your first adventure, starting with a +0 run, and that +0 is just like the baseline very first intro difficulty. These runs take somewhere in the vicinity of about 10 minutes to clear. The maps are relatively small with a few packs in one of two multiple paths to get to the boss, followed by a single boss fight at the end. You kill the boss, you collect the loot, your mission is complete. Now, after you do a +0 run, you will unlock the ability to move up to a +1 difficulty, bumping up the challenge slightly, and then adding an additional modifier. These are called ascensions. They go down as you push up the difficulties. The one that you unlock at the +1 difficulty basically just increase the threat generation for healers and damage dealers, making tanking a little harder, or more likely that they would pull aggro. And then you do that +1 run, clear the trash, kill the boss, collect the loot, roughly 10 minutes in total. Then at that point, you now have unlocked the +2 difficulty, Same story as before. Go into the dungeon, the enemies are harder, there's a new modifier, clear the trash, kill the boss, about 10 minutes or so. Now you've unlocked +3. And then also at certain thresholds beyond the modifiers, enemies and bosses are given new abilities and attacks that you're gonna have to pay attention to. That just mixes things up a little bit. Now, in addition, as you move up the difficulty ladder, going from 0 to 1 to 2 and so on, clearing each of these also comes with new unlocks for your character, because the game doesn't have character experience gain that unlocks new abilities and talents. All of those unlocks come as you get clears and move up that difficulty ladder. So sometimes you're going to unlock a new ability that goes directly on your hotbar. Other times, upon completing specifically the +2, +5, and +9 runs, at those completions, you will get a talent point to spend into your class tree with multiple rows, each row having 3 different options to choose from. Generally speaking, these will modify or enhance one of your abilities depending on like your chosen playstyle. And then also periodically you will unlock new dungeons as you climb in those difficulty ranks. Now, one additional thing that changes as well is that with every increase in difficulty level, the gear that you get potentially as a reward at the end gets slightly better. It goes from these base level grays to grays with more stats, eventually into green gear. You'll also unlock additional slots, like eventually you get rings and amulets and things of that nature as you push higher up the chain. Presumably this goes higher than green, but again, I stopped playing far sooner than I expected. I thought I was gonna be playing this game like the whole week, but it just didn't click with me. And yeah, that is basically the game. You start running +0 adventures, kill the boss, collect the loot, move on to +2, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so on. In that process, being rewarded slightly better gear each time, while also unlocking new character abilities, talent points, and dungeon access. So with all of that laid out, let's talk about my initial early thoughts on the game. First with the likes, because there are things I like. For starters, visually, I think the game looks great, like across the board, top to bottom, the environmental design, the enemy design, the look of the characters, the color palette that they've chosen, their overall aesthetic, all of that. Visually, this game I find very appealing. It's part of the reason I wish there was in another dimension, there was an MMO version of this game, because it's a cool looking world and I would love to play that game, or just a better version of this game, to be perfectly honest. They've got some legitimately cool boss mechanics in their dungeons. So there's the one Siren Lady boss. She summons up these waves that knock back anyone in their path. You need to actually line of sight this, otherwise you'll be pushed over the edge. And then also at one point in the fight, I believe when she's at 50% health, she goes to the edge and then plays this song that will pull everyone in your party to her, forcing you to fall off the cliff. And what you need to do to counteract this is click on this pole, chaining yourself to it, which will then drop off once she's done playing her song. Or there's the boss in the ice level, and he's got this channel ability that puts permanent damage pools on the ground. If you don't interrupt it, this will cause a huge problem. He also has this massive cone attack. It's like a 45% of the arena, the amount of space that it takes up. So you want the tank to face this away from the group so it takes up less space and doesn't hit everybody. And then you also summon up these ice spikes in succession, like 5 or 6 of them, and you need to kite them around. This will end up taking up a lot of space, especially if you have a bunch of those permanent pools on the ground. Something else I think the movement in the game, like character movement, moving around, jumping, that all feels fine. And also the game ran quite well for me. Like I had pretty good performance across the board, really no major things to complain about. Now that said, I didn't really enjoy this game. Like I was not having fun, and I think there's a few major reasons that initially stand out to me. Probably the biggest, most glaring issue of them all for me right now is that the combat simply does not feel good, especially if you compare it to what is clearly this game's most direct inspiration, World of Warcraft. It just does not hold a candle to the combat feel for a tab target game that WoW delivers. But really, I think if you hold it up to any of the bigger tab target MMOs, Fellowship's combat falls short, at least from my initial impressions. And what's odd about that is that this doesn't look bad. Like watching this gameplay, you might say to yourself, Force, you idiot, this looks like exactly like WoW's combat. What do you mean Fellowship is bad if it's just like WoW? But that's just the thing. While it looks perfectly fine, it's the gameplay feel that is off. Combat simply, in my opinion, just lacks any good sense of impact or mechanical feel. Now, this often comes down to a combination of some of of these various elements. First, there's the responsiveness to input, or the time between pressing a key and then having those actions play out with your character. Any amount of latency here can really throw off a gameplay's feel. Then there's animations and sounds. These will play a major role in the feel of any game. Now, from what I can tell, the animations seem fine enough, and I think it could be the sound design that is holding the whole thing down, but I really just don't know for sure. I'm not a game developer. I don't know enough. I just know something feels off. But then on top of that, besides your character animations, there's also the animations and sounds, not of just your attacks, but how the enemies react when they're struck and the feedback that you get from that. And then there's the additional layer of UI feedback, or things like a subtle amount of screen shake for big heavy hitting attacks. But yeah, it's these things combined: the input response time, your animations for you and the enemies, the corresponding sounds, and then any and all UI feedback that the game has. All of these things play a role into how good or not a game feels to play. And while I cannot pinpoint for sure myself what exactly the issue is, where the big hang up is, I could just say, from a subjective level, playing this game, the combat feel, it isn't clicking for me. And that then moves me into the next pain point that I notice, and that is the severe lack of motivation, or carrot on a stick, that desire to grind, which is kind of the entire premise of a game like this. You're running the same dungeons over and over, you're grinding the same thing repeatedly for the sake of getting better gear. So it's a big issue if there's no motivation to do that loop. I think part of the problem almost certainly is that, as I just mentioned, I was not enjoying the combat. The gameplay itself wasn't sufficiently fun enough for me to want to keep playing just for the sake of playing. If I'm not enjoying 10 minutes of gameplay, I don't want to keep doing those same 10 minutes of gameplay over and over again. If I was enjoying the moment-to-moment combat, that could be enough of a drive to just keep me playing a game, and I wouldn't necessarily need these external carrot-on-a-stick factors to come into the equation. Like, without question, that could be the case. But that also coupled with the lack of motivation from things like loot, it being underwhelming, that absolutely didn't help, which brings me into the loot thing. So I played for 5 to 6 hours, and from what I can tell, there appears to be no RNG for getting higher rarity items. The items that drop, they are random. Every single difficulty tier, you will be displayed. These are the items that you can get, and you're going to get a random one from that pool. But from what I can tell, there doesn't look to be any chance of getting like a lucky rarity bump. So how it works is from difficulty 0 to 4, the items you get are displayed in the bottom right, and they're always going to be those items, and they're always only ever going to be the gray version of those items. And then when you get to difficulty 5 and above, everything that drops is now green, and presumably that goes up to blue and maybe purple at some point. I don't know, I haven't gotten that far, but I never once saw anybody get a lucky awesome drop, and that's not good. You want that RNG. You want that potential to get something that makes you feel like, oh, I won the lottery. That not being here, the lack of potential random feel-good reward, means that my dopamine system isn't ever getting triggered when I'm clearing one of these dungeons. That's pretty bad news for a loot game. You really it needs to be more than you're going to randomly get one of these 4 items, and then they're always gray, and then at difficulty 5+, they're always green. Someone should be getting super lucky and get a blue drop, and that's going to give you the motivation to keep pushing, because maybe you are eventually going to be the one. All the gameplay discussion aside, like, that is a layer that I think they could use. Something else that I noticed that I don't think is helping matters is that there are no weapon drops in the game. You are never picking. I played a sword and shield tank character. There's never, I'm never getting a sword and a shield dropping. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. I didn't see it in any of my runs. Plus, checking out the available gear slots on the character panel here, you'll notice there are no slots for weapons. And that one that's above rings that might look like crossing swords, that's not what it is. Those are actually armbands or cuffs or whatever you want to call them. And so I noticed this and I thought to myself, that can't be right. So I did a little further digging into the Discord and various FAQs. And yes, I basically confirmed there are no weapons to collect in this game. It's not a thing, which, I mean, you can't do that in a dungeon run loot game. I'm sorry. Getting a better weapon is like a primary motivating factor for grinding for gear in any loot game. Even if I'm not playing a DPS focused character, if it's a looter shooter and I need to get better guns, or if it's a game like this where I'm running dungeons and yeah, I want a bigger two-handed sword if I'm playing a melee brawler, or I want a better sword and shield if I'm playing a tank. Getting better weapons in pretty much every loot game, that is like one of the main things. Like, I don't care if I get a better helmet, unless it's like legendary legendary and it comes with a cool affix. I always want a better weapon. There are no weapon drops in this game. And this also leads me to believe maybe all of the weapon variations are going to be cosmetic and maybe there will be a cash shop. I don't know. I'm not confirming that. There's no weapons in the game. And I think that's also a mistake. And all of these things are layering. That's the thing. Another thing layering to it, which I noticed what I think could play a role, is the character leveling. There is none. As I mentioned, you don't gain experience and level up, and then as you level, you get new skills and talents. No, it's all tied behind as you move up those difficulty chains, you clear 1, and then you get +2, and then you clear +2, and you get +3. At various intervals in there, you unlock a new talent, you unlock a new ability that gets dropped onto your hotbar, you unlock a new dungeon, and that's how it works as you go up. I think just having the distinction between like my character's abilities going up as I'm leveling the character separate from my ability to clear the dungeon, because that way I could farm tier 5 dungeons and still get progression beyond the gear. Forget the fact that there's no freaking weapons in the game, but I could still like get a new skill point by farming tier 5 dungeons, and then I would feel confident to push into tier, you know what I mean? So I think separating those systems out just works better from a motivation standpoint. Like I said, after just a few runs, like my motivation to keep playing was 0 basically, but I kept playing. I wanted to at least put in over 5 hours before I made this video. Usually I want to play like 50 hours of a game before I make a video, but I said I can't make a video about this game after playing for 30 minutes. I can't do it. But I felt done. There was no motivation, but for the multiple reasons, for the fact that the combat didn't feel good, and so just playing wasn't motivating enough for me to want to keep playing. But then I think some of these carrot on a stick elements are other layers that would help, but I just think they're missing the mark on a few elements here. I think one other point of feedback would just be the UI. It's basically like a modded World of Warcraft UI. Is it Elf UI or something that it looks almost identical to? One of those. But outside of like the look of it, I think targeting needs a bit more feedback and clarity. I did find quite often that I seem to be losing targets. Either it's the nameplates or associated effects when you're targeting or dropping, but there seems to be a lack of something there that I think could use some work. And in general, yeah, I think the UI could use some more polish and more sound effects, even for things like opening and closing windows. Like you get a nice sound in a lot of games when you do either of those actions, and it feels like something's missing here. I will add a personal matter that I just really dislike the built-in damage and healing meters. Again, this is a personal thing, but for me, it just makes these runs feel like they are 100% about efficiency rather than being about fun. I think if anything, this game should be more catering to a casual crowd as opposed to those looking to push meters in Mythic Plus WoW dungeons, because those people are probably just going to keep playing WoW. Also, I just think it looks ugly, like the amount of clutter that this brings to the UI, having these built-in meters. I don't love it. Now, eventually, about halfway through playing, I realized you could do the edit UI, and there was no way to delete the meters from your UI, but I was able to click and drag them off the screen so that I just didn't have to look at them, and that's what I did. Again, this isn't the biggest of deals. It's just a personal thing, like just a personal preference. I don't like them. You do see a lot of complaints about the lack of character customization. This doesn't matter so much to me in terms of like making the character model look at a way that, playing with that. I don't like that everything is relegated to these small few talent rows, and I wish we had maybe more traditional skill trees where you picked and choose the skills that you are going to be using in your build or whatever. But right now, every player who's playing a certain character or hero, they all have the exact same active skills, all of them. The only thing that changes is which of those like 5 or 6 rows of talents, which one in each row they pick from. That's the only thing distinguishing my character from your character. I guess also the gear that you're getting, but that doesn't seem like as big of a thing. These are just first impressions. This is not a review. I have not thoroughly played this game. It's only been about 6 hours, but like I said, I felt checked out nearly immediately, and I wanted to dive into some of the reasons why, mainly because I was genuinely looking forward to this. I thought I was going to be playing this game all week. Like the playtest for Steam Next Fest, I thought I was going to be playing all week, and then after it was done, I would put together a review that would take like 3 days or something to write. That's what I thought was going to happen. As I said at the top, it is extremely disappointing to me that that wasn't the case. I really think the largest factor is that I did not enjoy the gameplay, and I think if they can, all of this progression stuff, the carrot on the stick discussion, I think some of that could be addressed, but the biggest thing is the gameplay needs to feel better. And like I said, there are people playing it. Like, it's reaching every day, some like 3,000 to 4,000 concurrent players. The last I checked, it's been dropping day after day, but that's kind of natural. But there are still some 1,000 concurrent players playing this game. There are people who are clearly enjoying it. Just from my perspective, the combat wasn't fun enough to keep me going, and that's a real shame. And I don't think they're too far off. I don't think it's not salvageable. That's, I think, also part of the reason I'm making this video. I've played a lot of games that I just really didn't like whatsoever, and I thought they had no chance, and I just don't talk about them because I don't care. Like, I'm here to talk about games, and I enjoy playing games, and I want to talk about things that I enjoy for the most part. I think there is something here that they could come across the finish line with successfully, and that I would enjoy. But right now, what is currently here, I simply do not enjoy, and maybe that will change when the game officially releases. As of this recording, there is no actual set release date. We just know it's coming out sometime this year. So I'm hoping it gets better. Simple as. All right, and with that, we will wrap up today's video. I want to thank you as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know it wasn't the most pleasant of topics, and if anyone from the Fellowship development team is watching this, I'm sorry that I'm not coming here with more glowing praises. That's just I guess just use it as constructive feedback, if anything, if at all, if it even matters. Maybe I'm not your target audience, or whatever. Do your thing, make your game. I hope it turns out to be a game that I enjoy playing, because I would like to enjoy playing this. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. I'll see you all in the next one. All right, take it easy.